So, good morning. So, often I will get ideas for a talk from all kinds of places. And this morning, I recently read a quote by Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers of PBS fame, which inspired me to think about and write about. And I was a fan of his. I'm a fan of his. He died in 2003. His show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, aired on PBS for 33 years from 1968 until 2001. He was actually an ordained, I think, Presbyterian minister. I'm not sure if the denomination is right, but he was a minister. And he really positively impacted the early development of many kids, thousands probably, of children, including my own, who grew up watching him. So you might be asking, well, what does this have to do with the Dharma? Well, I want to use a quote from him today and talk about it today. He said, quote, "Anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable." Anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. And I think there's tremendous wisdom in this quote. I think it really resonates with much of what we talk about here, particularly our emphasis on mindfulness, compassion, and really the transformative power of awareness, and just acknowledging the reality of what is. From a Buddhist perspective, his quote reflects the importance of acknowledging and embracing our human experiences, both pleasant and unpleasant, as a path of liberation, from a path to reduce suffering. In Buddhism, the first step toward overcoming suffering is recognizing and acknowledging it, or mentioning it, as Rogers did say. And this principle, of course, is encapsulated in the First Noble Truth. The Buddha taught that life inevitably includes experiences of pain, loss, and dissatisfaction. But rather than avoiding these experiences, or suppressing these experiences, the Buddha encourages us to face them with mindfulness and equanimity. Fred Rogers' assertion that anything human is mentionable aligns, in my view, with this teaching. It suggests that no aspect of our humanity, no matter how painful or uncomfortable, should be ignored or denied. When we name and articulate our feelings, when we accept them as they are, we bring them into the light of awareness. And in Buddhist practice, this is akin to the practice of mindfulness, where we observe our thoughts and emotions without judgment. And in doing so, we create space. We create the spaciousness we need to understand them more deeply and respond to them more skillfully. And this is rather than being overwhelmed by them or controlled by them. As Rogers suggests, the mentionable becomes more manageable. What is brought into mindful awareness is less likely to cause persistent suffering. The quote also highlights the importance of communication, which is closely related to right speech, one of the steps on the Eightfold Noble Path. Right speech involves speaking truthfully, kindly, and in ways that promote understanding and harmony. When we talk about our feelings and experiences, we not only help ourselves process those feelings and experiences, but it fosters connection and it fosters compassion with others. Sharing our struggles with trusted friends, teachers, or spiritual companions is a powerful way to cultivate understanding and support. And this mirrors Fred Rogers' idea that discussing our feelings makes them less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. A lesson he often taught to the children in his television audience. By verbalizing our inner experience, we reduce their power to isolate or intimidate us. We open the door to healing and transformation. The other principle, I think, reflected in the quote is compassion. The Buddha taught us that all of us, all beings, experience suffering, And the shared vulnerability and the shared suffering is the basis for developing compassion. When we acknowledge and express our own humanity, we not only ease our own burdens, but we create opportunities to connect with others on a deeper level, a more honest level. And this mutual recognition of our shared struggles fosters empathy and reduces judgment, reduces separation. Fred Rogers' emphasis on making the human experience mentionable, as he calls it, is an invitation also to practice self-compassion. Though he was an ordained minister, he embodied and taught many of the values that exist in Buddhism and other faith traditions. I mean, some of these, as you know, are universal truths that are found across faith traditions. Buddhism certainly doesn't have a corner on the market. But when we emphasize self-compassion, it involves treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a dear friend. So often we are much harder on ourselves than we would be on a friend going through the same challenges. When we name and accept our feelings, we honor our own humanity, we create the conditions, we create fertile ground for healing and growth. And one of the most profound aspects, I think, of his quote is the implication that our fears diminish when we bring our experiences into the open. When we push them away, the fear just kind of, like a tea kettle, it just kind of boils and boils. And this is likewise true for shame and other feelings that we try to hide or push away or avoid. As you know,